Hey guys, before we really kick off this episode, I want you to know that I added an update at the end of this video of a poll I did on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. So stay tuned for that as well. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Thanks. I know you've all seen it, whether it be the parody or the real deal, Dr. Phil talking. And when it comes down to him being serious, he sits the folks down and he gives them some real talk. I know my Dr. Phil impression's not that good. But that's exactly what I'm going to do with you here in this episode is we're going to have some real talk, real conversation, and a little bit of current events all mixed in together. I think this is an important episode. I think you should stay tuned and listen to it because I need your input. I want you to listen to it, and we need to have this conversation. So episode 275, Real Talk. Is that close enough? I don't know. Stay tuned. Hey guys, before we
like I said in the intro,
I want you to know that I added an update.
This is a
at the
big
end
deal.
of
This is going to be an important episode.
This
This
is
is
a
a
conversation
conversation
Twitter
that I
or
think
X, whatever
we
you
all
want to
need
call
to
it.
have.
So stay tuned for that as well.
Help get
And
in
I hope you
front of
enjoy
this
episode.
This has
Thanks.
been dividing us. In fact, the two things I want to talk about today have been dividing us dramatically as a country. And it could really, and well, not could, it is dividing us as 2A supporters. This is crazy. This is a crazy thing. I know. Look at my face. We might as well talk about the 100-pound elephant, 500-pound gorilla, white elephant. We might as well bring this right up to bat. I know you're looking at my pretty face and you're like, Steve, where did your facial hair go? Well, there's a story behind that, and it goes like this. I was getting ready for you guys, right? After work, cleaning myself up. I'm like, man, my goatee's a little scruffy. There's some unevenness, so I decided, well, maybe I'll just trim it up. So I put the stupid little comb thing on the clippers and picked up the wrong one. And obviously it was way too close because you can see it's that close. I was like, dang it, what an idiot. So what did I do? Well, I didn't freak out. I was a little disappointed. It needed trimmed up. Just not that much, I didn't think. Well, so I ended up making like a handlebar mustache thing like Paul Tuttle Sr. does. You know, Paul Sr. Back in the day. Actually, he's still got a YouTube channel now. But so I was like, yeah, that could look cool. But once I cut it in there, I'm like, no, that looks terrible. That looks completely awful. So then I trimmed it up to the mustache. So I just had a cute little mustache up here. And I was like, man, that's even worse than the handlebar thing. So off it went. I might as well just trim it all, make it all look right. And that's what I did. So here we are. What do you think? You guys like it? I mean, there's still a little left. You can kind of see it. Do I keep it? Do I grow it back? Do I go back to my long flowing goatee that I've had in the past, which I actually don't mind having a nice long goatee, but a lot of people say it looks terrible. What it does do, though, when it's nice and long, is it hides the old double chin-a-rooski down there, which I'm working on. In fact, I might as well share that too. This is not a paid spot. I don't get paid by these guys, but I've been working out a lot since for the last little while, November-ish. I've been trying to work out, and I've been off and on. You know how it gets sometimes when you're exercising. But what has been helping me a lot is First Form. Again, I'm not getting paid to tell you this. I do have a link, so maybe I would be getting paid if I did that, but. So First Form has been with me this whole time during this journey. I've downloaded the app. I've been doing a lot of stuff. I've been trying to eat healthier. I've been using the supplements and that kind of stuff. I have lost some weight. I've definitely gained muscle, and it's been awesome. So if you're looking for some workout routine, some workout help, I do recommend First Form. If this fat guy can do it and feel better, tired, but better, then I recommend it to anybody. Now is the perfect time to get into shape, not tomorrow. You might as well start now. As much as it sucks, because it does suck to work out, I'm not going to lie. Do I enjoy it? Sometimes. But honestly, for reals, First Form has their products and honestly their help, their trainer and that kind of stuff that I've been working with has helped me a bunch. So complete side note, maybe I'll throw the link down below. It does help the show a little bit. I probably should, honestly, if it helps the show. I might as well throw the link down there. If you're ready to start your workout journey, you might as well do it too, because
by far had the most success and support through First Form than any other place that I've tried with. So anyways, let's jump to the actual segment of the show. I've just wasted 5 minutes of your life talking about two things that might be important. I don't know. But let's jump into something here that's for realsies, that is important. So what I really, really wanted to talk to you guys about, first off, because this has made a big rift in the 2A community and society as a whole, particularly on the socials. There's so much buzz about this, and that's was it Anthony Carmelo Anthony, right? Yeah, Carmelo Anthony and the Austin Metcalf. That thing that happened, I think, on the 2nd down in Texas. So if you're not familiar with the story, there was a big track meet happening in Texas. A bunch of different high schools. I think it was the 5A championships or something. It was a big track meet with a lot of schools there. And about 10 o'clock, there happened to be a downpour, a weather downpour, and students trying to hide under tents. So Austin Metcalf, one of the students there, they were all him and his classmates were hunkered down under their little canopy tent thing that was just for their school. Well, Carmelo Anthony, who's another student from another high school, came over. Oh, now this is just the way I understand the story. This isn't exact, but we're going to get into some of the details in a minute. Goes under the canopy. Austin Metcalf says, "Hey man, wrong school. You got to move." And I don't know exact the words that were said. Nobody really has shared that information yet. Nonetheless, Carmelo's like, make me, basically, push me and find out, I think is one of the words that he said. And, or punch me and find out, I think is what it was. Anyways, Austin Metcalf, well, let's finish this story. Austin Metcalf gave him a shove, and then in return, Carmelo Anthony pulled out a knife that he had in his backpack and stabbed Austin Metcalf in the chest, resulting in Metcalf passing away not too long after. Once that happened, Carmelo threw the knife through his backpack and took off running to the opposite side of the track, which he was later found by police, and he admitted what he had done. To understand some of that narrative, those of us that were teenage boys at one time understand that there's a lot of bravado that happens at that age. And I imagine both these young men felt the same way. Like they were invincible. They were both football players and track runners. I imagine there's a lot of testosterone there. They were 17 years old. So there's a lot of emotion with these young men, especially when you get around other dudes your age, peers. You do things that you don't normally do. Nonetheless, what happened was Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf got into an altercation, which led to Austin being stabbed in the chest and again later passing away that day. Now let's get into some of the more detailed part of this, because I think it's important for us to understand what happened without being sucked into this vortex of misinformation or partial information that we're not quite getting 100%, especially on places like X and Twitter and TikTok. There's a lot of stuff that is not, I guess X and Twitter are the same, Instagram, X, and TikTok, that are not really accurate. They're kind of slighted. It's important for us to understand this story to understand what we can get out of it, I guess, if that makes sense. So to be absolutely clear, I did use Grok to compile a lot of this information. I also used the actual, not FBI, police reports on the incident to gather as much unbiased opinion as possible, because we need to know this information. We need to know the truth to have the ability to make good, conscious decisions, about what this incident was, is, and what the repercussions on a lot of different aspects of 2A and concealed carry and self-defense, all this stuff. It all is going to play a part in this decision making of this information that I'm going to give you. So please just stay with me.
And I'm going to try and be as unbiased as possible with this because I think it's important. Now, a lot of this I am going to read on this factual overview because I don't want to miss anything, and I don't want to misrepresent anything. So April 2nd, 2025 at approximately 10 a.m. at David, I don't know how to say this, Kendall Stadium in Frisco, Texas. So it was 11-5A track meet, district track meet at an independent school. Individuals involved: Austin Metcalf, a 17-year-old junior at Frisco Memorial High School, a track and football athlete with a reported 4.0 GPA, described by his family as a leader with collegiate football prospects. Carmelo Anthony, also a 17-year-old student, but he was at Frisco Centennial High School, also an athlete, both football and track, with a reported 3.7 GPA with college offers, according to his father. An altercation between Metcalf and Anthony escalated into physical confrontation. Anthony stabbed Metcalf once in the chest with a knife, leading to Metcalf's death, which we talked about just a second ago. The incident took place under Memorial High School's team's tent during a rain delay at the track meet. Frisco police responded to reports of a stabbing, and they got there about 10:01, according to the police reports, which I'm going to show you here in a bit. They found Metcalf with a stab wound and performed life-saving measures, including CPR and blood administration. But Metcalf was pronounced dead at the local hospital at 10:53 a.m. A bloody knife was recovered in the stadium bleachers. Carmelo Anthony was arrested at the scene by a high school resource officer and charged with first-degree murder, which is a felony, and is being held in the Collin County Jail on a $1 million bond. According to the arrest affidavit, a witness reported that Metcalf had told Anthony to leave the high school's team tent, and because Anthony was from another school, Anthony allegedly opened his bag and reached inside and said, "Touch me and see what happens." Metcalf then physically touched or pushed Anthony to remove him. Another witness stated that Anthony pulled out a black knife and stabbed Metcalf once in the chest and then fled the tent. When approached by an officer, Anthony spontaneously said, "I was protecting myself." And then he said, "He put his hands on me." As an officer referred to him as the suspect, Anthony reported said, "I'm not alleged, I did it." While being escorted to a police vehicle, Anthony was described as crying hysterically and asked if Metcalf was going to be okay and whether his actions would be considered self-defense. And the police also observed blood on Anthony's fingers during the transport from where they picked him up to the vehicle. There are actually several witness statements. And again, when I go through the police reports, I can show you, we can count how many witnesses to this event there actually were, which are a lot. And this is obviously an ongoing investigation, and we don't really know everything, and we probably won't know everything. A witness not named in the reports collaborated that the altercation began over Anthony sitting under the memorial tent after Metcalf asked him to leave. Anthony issued a "touch me" warning, and Metcalf touched or pushed him, leading to the stabbing. Hunter Metcalf, Austin's twin brother, was present and attempted to stop his brother's bleeding, and he told the media that an argument was over Anthony sitting in their team's tent and described it as the act as senseless over a minor dispute. He said he tried to intervene but did not see the stab itself. No witnesses reported seeing Metcalf with a weapon. The affidavit also doesn't mention any other weapons were involved, which I think that is very important for us to make this decision here about, is it self-defense, was it provoked, or whatever. The only weapon present was with Carmelo. He was the only one that had a weapon. And I'm going to add this too. It was a prohibited weapon. He should not have had it at the school. Whether it was his school or not, it was still a school event, which he should not have had it. There's a lot of fun. This is actually, I'm going to talk about this. This is probably the biggest deal that's bringing a lot of attention is the fundraising aspect. Now, I was asked yesterday or the day before, when this was all starting to kind of kick off, whether I felt like Carmelo acted in self-defense or if he was the aggressor. And my stance then was, I don't know, because I don't have the information. And honestly, I still don't know because I don't have all the information. But here's the problem: is there's a lot of dispute and a lot of conversation on whether Carmelo was acting as an aggressor, if his actions meet the standard for stand your ground or self-defense, which, looking and listening to some statutes today, I'm not sure if it will qualify for him to claim self-defense. And then the fundraising aspect a lot. So the big conversation right now is, why are people donating to Carmelo's Give, Send, Go? I honestly don't have a major issue with the fundraising aspect of this. And I understand there's a lot of concern saying, hey, this is just a fundraiser for thugs to make money if they kill somebody. I understand that. And I can I get where they're coming from, the people that are making those accusations. But we, according to the Constitution, we are all innocent until proven guilty. And that doesn't happen until a court of law, when all the facts are placed and he's either judged by the judge himself or a jury. Now that machine of going through a jury or a trial, is expensive. So I am okay that there's a fundraiser for Carmelo. I'm cool with it. I don't see why there is such an issue with Carmelo and his family having some kind of a fundraiser. In return, I'm also 100% cool with Anthony Metcalf's family having a fundraiser set up for them, because this is a hard time. There's a lot of things that could happen, especially when a case like this becomes national or international, probably by now. It's not an easy thing to deal with. Nonetheless, besides all that stuff, set all that stuff aside, 2 families lost a son on the 2nd. 2 families. Anthony Metcalf's family won't see their son until they make it to the other side. Carmelo's family lost a son. Whether he go to jail for 2 years to life, or he returns home, taking somebody's life will alter him forever. I don't care what people say. He's not going to be able to stomach that. He's not going to be able to just bury that. Even if he's found not guilty or in self-defense, he's going to be struggling with that the rest of his life. Both families lost a son that day. And if you're too proud to admit that the Second Amendment and the right to self-defense is for everybody, I'm not saying that what Carmelo did was self-defense. What I'm saying is the right for self-preservation is for everybody. It is up for the courts to decide from this point on, not us, not the public, not the people on X or Instagram or wherever, to decide this young man's innocence or guilt. It is now up to the state and a jury to decide this young man's fate. They will be presented with all the facts. We do not have all the facts. And I am pretty disappointed on the conservative side. A lot of big conservative voices just jumping right on the bandwagon, already turning this into a racial issue. I don't care about whether they're black or white, who the victim and who the perpetrator was in this. What I care is there was a victim and a perpetrator besides their race. That doesn't matter to me. Race does not. I don't care. What I care about is justice and mercy. That's what I care about. And as conservative folks, Why are you jumping on the immediate racism bandwagon and pointing fingers? You do not have all the facts yet. Even though the police reports came out today, I looked through them. I've read them. In fact, like I said, I'm going to share them with you here in a second. It doesn't matter. What we decide does not matter. What could happen with all this rhetoric that's being pushed now on social media is taint the jury pool and decrease the ability of Carmelo of having a fair trial, whether he did it or didn't do it. Okay? You do not have the facts. We do have some facts. We do not have all of the facts. Okay? So I'm calling you to repentance, basically. If you're Matt Walsh, the Hodge twins, you guys, shame on you. Shame on you. And many of my friends on X, on both sides of this argument, shame on you. You should just be sharing what truth we have. Don't jump into some racist bullshit. Don't say that he did it because he was white or he did it because he was black. That's not up to you to decide. Stop it. Stop fueling this. Stop it. It's really sad to me. It's sad to me. Again, both families are grieving. Both families lost a child. Not to mention the community issues. All the kids that witnessed this, they're all going to have some sort of counseling or some way to deal with this. And who knows what all this extra racial propaganda. Man, I got the burps today. Propaganda and fire to the fumes to the fire. Fuel to the fire. You know what I'm trying to say. This is not good. This is not good for conversation, and it's just making things worse. I'm not down with it. I do not appreciate the conversations being had. It's pretty disappointing. Let me scroll down on some. In fact, how about we look through some of these police reports here? All right. So here we have the police report. First thing I noticed, which I was really confused about, it is this right here. I don't understand this. Maybe it was a typo, but under Carmelo's ethnicity is an N. I don't understand that. Anyway, like we talked about earlier, here we see that the altercation took. I want to bring something up specifically because this is something important. So we see the incident happened or was reported at 10:01 a.m. Okay. This is the official police report, or one of them, coming out of the Frisco Police Department. So again, when they talked to Carmelo, he said, I'm not an alleged person. I did it. He admitted to it. Okay. So he admitted making it happen twice, or at least once. 2 officers heard it. He did end up throwing the knife into the bleachers. But let's scroll down here all the way. So the incident happened. This is important for us to understand. Now, please listen to me. Disregard what the incident was, but I want to talk about response times because this is a big part of self-defense that we need to understand, or any kind of incident for that matter. So it happened at 10:01, and then the police arrived, or the police showed up around 10:01. I'm not sure exactly what time the incident happened, sometime around 10 o'clock in the morning. But look here, the ambulance shows up at 10:46 a.m. That was at least 45 minutes between the law enforcement showing up and the paramedics. So 45 minutes. But then he was transported and made it to the hospital at 10:53. So it was roughly 1 hour from the incident to Austin's body making it to the hospital where he was pronounced dead, which is, man, what a tough situation for his parents. And then you can see here it was 1:24 p.m., 1324, that the family was allowed to see his body one last time. Man, that's rough. And then at 1:37 p.m., he was placed in the body bag, and that was the last time. Boy, last time his parents got to see him alive. Well, see his body, not alive, but see his body. So we see, sorry, that'd be rough. So response time, you saw that it was 45 minutes roughly before the ambulance was able to get there on scene. Now, the type of wound that Austin suffered was very severe. It was a mortal injury from impact. I mean, you got right center of chest, whether it be the heart or the aorta, a lot of blood being pumped, a lot of blood pressure, plus elevated heart rate from adrenaline. Austin knew that something wasn't right. And then, man, his brother Hunter having to be there and trying to stop his brother from bleeding out. Super rough situation. But I encourage you to download. I'm not going to read this entire report. There's too much to read, but I encourage you to seek it out. I downloaded this off of a Fox News article, and I think it's important for you to see this. There are certain things in this report that I think will make it hard for Carmelo to say self-defense. I mean, he had the ability to leave the scene without any issue. He challenged, from what it sounds like, allegedly he challenged Austin to push me and find out, or punch me and find out, or something to that aspect. So it shows intent to escalate a situation. And then pushing, so Austin did push him, right? Punched him or pushed him. What it looked like is it said pushed in the report. Does that constitute using deadly force, being pushed? Maybe. There's a lot of aspects you could look at this. There's a lot of friends with Austin under the tent, so maybe there was a disparity in force. But it doesn't, the police report, at least this report, doesn't indicate that there was anything like that in the situation. That it was just between the two of them, and then he used lethal force, which was far beyond the necessary force, in my opinion, that would constitute any kind of self-defense. And then throwing the knife and running away is not something you would normally do in a self-defense situation. If there was indeed some kind of a threat to your life, you would want to keep your life-saving tool with you no matter what. But yet you see he threw it in the bleachers and took off. To his credit, Carmelo's credit, he said that he admitted guilt. He said he did it. And he did ask if Anthony was going to be okay. Or Austin, excuse me. If Austin was going to be okay. Which, obviously the police aren't going to give him that kind of information, no matter what. They don't know either. So they're not going to suggest any indication of Austin's condition. So it's crazy. This is such a crazy story. And again, it goes to show you two things. Well, many things. One is that social media, there's so much confusion and so much misdirection on social media. There's the racial thing that's being pushed nonstop. There's the tribalism on even inside the conservative 2A community that's pushing some narratives that I think are just too far and kind of disgusting, honestly. And then the whole fundraising thing, again, I don't care that Carmelo's family has a GoFundMe or whatever it is set up for them. This is going to cost them a fortune in court to try and prove his innocence, if he is innocent. And then, again, that's not up to us to decide. We don't have that information. It's up to the judge or the jury to decide the fate of Carmelo Anthony. So screw you if you're turning this into a race debate and you're making this some ridiculous claims that are unfounded and unfair. So please, if you're doing that, just stop it. And I don't care how that makes you feel. If you don't like me, So be it. I don't care. This is just how I feel. And I think it's important for us to stop playing these asinine games. Stop it. Be grown-ups in the conversation. Wait for all the facts to come out and then make that decision. You know, there's a lot of folks comparing him to Kyle Rittenhouse or Daniel Penny. These are not the same situation. They are not the same circumstance. And they do not apply in this conversation. So stop it. Just stop it. If you want to support Carmelo, fine, that's great. Get his story out. Do what you can to help him. Quit turning it into a race thing. Quit turning it into some political thing. It's a boy that's going to have to defend his freedom in court. And then in return, or in the dichotomy or whatever, the Metcalfs lost a child, right? They're grieving, they're suffering. His mom or his dad said straight up, "Hey, I forgive Carmelo." So fantastic. Let's keep it that way, okay?
What's happening? It's Steve with the Range Minded Podcast, and I'm here to share with you a goal that I have for 2025. Now, I've been doing the podcast now since 2018. That's a long time. But it's been kind of a lull as far as people actually subscribing to the show. So I set a goal for this year to hit 1,000 subscribers on each of my YouTube and my Rumble channel. Now, a lot of you people already follow me on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or even TikTok. But very few of you guys actually follow me on where you can watch the show. So do me a favor. As soon as this video is over, jump over to the YouTube channel, jump over to the Rumble channel and hit subscribe. That would mean the world to me. It may not be much to you, but it is a lot to me. Help me achieve my goal of 1,000 subs this year, and all your wildest dreams will come true. There might be some kind of a disclaimer after that, but you get the point. Anyways, thanks guys. Take somebody shooting, and as always, stay range-minded. See ya. All right, let's talk about something else that is going to affect you and me as Americans, honestly, but it's going to affect us in a way that maybe you haven't thought about yet. So back on January 2nd, or was it April 2nd, President Trump signed the whole tariff thing, right? Announced that there was going to be more tariffs going on. I don't know if you guys could hear my mic. It was acting up. More tariffs that he was going to act all over, a lot of our trading partners. So looks like there's going to be a baseline 10% tariff to all the nations that we trade with. A couple exceptions were going to be Mexico and Canada, which we already know how that's been going with those two those two countries. But China's, he just bumped up another big tariff on China, which is going to take effect, I think, tomorrow. It's the 8th of April, as I'm January, March, April. Yeah, had to check that I'm filming this. I think the 9th, the big tariffs take effect against China. And then this jumps on. I mean, there's other countries like Brazil and I think Italy. There's some Brazil and Turkey. There's a 10%. The EU, there's a 20% tariff on the EU. A few months ago, there was a tariff on steel and aluminum that took place. That was back in March, and then a 20% bump on the Chinese goods. Anyways, so all these tariffs, whether you're for or against them, or you're just uncertain at this point, how do they affect us as gun owners, as the 2A community? Well, it could have a fairly big effect. Now, before I dive into this, I want you to know this is not a fear-mongering or a hoarding suggestion by any means. I just want you to be informed as 2A supporters, as consumers. Again, I don't want you to go panic buy a bunch of stuff. I just want you to be made aware of how this may affect us in the coming weeks or months. It's kind of a big deal. First off, what we might not see is an issue with American-made firearms. So like Ruger or Smith & Wesson or some of those, Palmetto State, those kind of things. We may not see
as much of a jump. We probably will see a jump, but maybe not as much on domestic made goods. Why are they still going to be impacted? Well, some of their raw materials come from other countries and they're imported and then manufactured, or parts or whatever. It might be purchased outside of the United States. And so as the tariffs take effect, those goods become more expensive. And then obviously that's passed on to us. Those manufacturers aren't just going to absorb those costs. They're going to push them down to us, which I know sounds like, oh, it's a consumer tax. In a way, yes, it is in a way. But there's a method behind the madness, in my opinion. But we're going to get into that, or maybe we won't get into that later. I don't want to talk about that right this second. What you will see drastically impacted are things like Benelli or Beretta or anything from outside of the United States. Those prices are going to come up, especially things like Holosun or anything that comes from China. They're going to see a dramatic increase, maybe 200%-ish. You might be used to buying a $60 Holosun, but here in a little bit, you could be paying, 120, 160 or more, $180 or something for it. Who knows? It's either way, stuff is going to get more expensive. The other big problem is some of the ammo that we buy out of country. We heard that Trump's going to lift some of the foreign ammo restrictions that were put in place during the last administration. But now that these tariffs take place, that those goods, though we can still get them, are going to be more expensive. Ammo is going to get more expensive. So things like MagTech or Privy Partisan or whatever it is, all the ammo that comes from other countries is going to get more expensive, maybe a lot more expensive. And we haven't seen prices like what we're gonna see. I don't think it might be. I think what we're going to see in the market as far as 2A stuff is concerned, firearm stuff is concerned, we haven't seen issues like this for quite a while. Think of the pandemic pricing, so 2019, 2020-ish, where things started to get really slim, and then, just as far as economics go, right, things get more expensive. But it's not an issue of supply and demand in this case. It's just an issue of import costs, tariffs that are going to be impacting us. Now, I think it's important to understand, I'm not a tariff expert. I'm not a financial expert. Look at my bank account. You'll know that I'm definitely not a financial expert. But the tariffs, even though we pay more money for foreign goods, the idea is to buy things domestically, which the market domestically is going to really have to evolve, and hopefully quickly. So any kind of domestic manufacturer is really going to have to push towards buying domestically made goods to help support what they're making. But what it really adversely affects, who's really going to feel it, are the countries that export to the United States. They're going to have to worry about coming up with the impact on their goods, and it's really going to adversely affect them. A lot of people say, well, it's just going to screw the American economy up. It's just going to screw the American consumer. Not really. Yes, it's going to cost us more money, but it's going to really interfere with the demand from those who are trying to bring those goods in. And that's where you're going to see some give, I hope, in the near future, when these other countries realize that the demand is so low that they're going to have to either lower their prices or comply with Trump's tariffs. I don't pretend I know everything, every aspect about his ideas on tariffs, Trump's ideas on tariffs. All I know is I want the American economy to thrive and become what we used to be. We used to be a big manufacturing hub that distributed to other countries. And obviously that's been really affected, whether you agree or not, by allowing other countries to bring cheaper goods in, things like Temu and that kind of crap, and mess with the American market. If you've ever been to SHOT Show, you'll realize that there are a lot of foreign countries that come in just to steal ideas, to go back to their country and make things cheaper, reverse engineer them and make them cheaper, and then flood the American market, which does definitely hurt domestically made products because they're bringing cheap garbage in at an incredibly cheaper price. Even though the goods are less, consumers like to spend less money, so they rationalize buying cheaper products. Again, the idea is to get out of that, to bring America back to what we should be manufacturing goods. Hopefully it brings American domestically made products down. The other big problem with the whole tariff thing, or at least with domestic manufacturing, is because of the burdens that previous administrations have put on domestic companies, they've outsourced, whether it be manufacturing or textiles or whatever, out of country to bring their costs competitive. So a lot of these manufacturers don't have some of the capabilities of making the things that they need. And some of these smaller U.S. companies that do have that ability have been pushed out for so many years that now they're going to have to come up with the ability to meet the needs of domestic manufacturing. So it's not an easy problem to fix. It's not a quick problem to fix. And Trump even said that. I remember when he talked about that, the first real press conference, I think, after he was elected, when he really started talking about the tariff plan. He said that we would feel it, that it's not going to be without paying for the American dollar, and we've seen that over the last couple of days. By the way, I'm not by any means a financial guru. We already said that, but maybe it might be a good time to buy some stocks because, man, it's pretty low right now. But in reality, now some of our favorite brands like Glock or Taurus or Canik, I don't know if Taurus, I guess Taurus is, Beretta, those kind of things, they do manufacture outside of the country. But I know some of those plants, like Glock, for example, they have their plant in Georgia. Maybe some of these manufacturers saw the writing on the wall. We do see some of those outside of the U.S. brands making stuff within the United States, which is good for us because we like those products. But some of that stuff they won't be able to make in the United States, or haven't planned ahead, or didn't know, or whatever. So those brands are definitely going to get more expensive, and they're going to bite us a little bit in the pocketbook. I know some of the bigger stores that kind of saw this coming, and maybe some of the other distributors banked up on some of these products to help kind of shore up against the price increases. But at some point, that deep stock is going to vanish, unless by then the tariff stuff mellows out and we're seeing a correction, which I don't know. I wish I could really look into the future and see what was going on. I just can't. The other big issue is some of us that are more seasoned in the 2A world, we've kind of built up a stockpile in a way of ammo or whatever, so we have a little bit of a buffer. But maybe the new firearms owners didn't understand the dynamic that we faced a few years ago, and they don't have a backstock of ammo to go for target practice or take classes or whatever. So it may adversely affect the noobs to the community that haven't really experienced this kind of strife like we have in the past. So I wouldn't say it adversely affects them, because it's going to affect everyone, but they might be the least prepared for it. So if you are new to the 2A community, or you're friends with somebody who just got into the community and is really enjoying it, it might be a good idea to encourage them to maybe buy a couple extra boxes of 9 or 5.56 or whatever, especially if they like the foreign made stuff. Now's probably the better time than later to do it, just in case. But again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm encouraging panic buying or that kind of stuff. I think it's important for us to keep a level head and to stay even keeled on this, and just be observant and help those around us, to weather the storm. At some point, I do believe that the storm will subside and things will have an amazing correction and go back to the days of when we had affordable ammunition. But there's a lot to get there. Even outside of the tariff world, there's a lot of regulations and things that would have to be overcome in order for us to see, 2016 ammo price levels, or or before. Like it's going to be rough to get to that point again, and I don't know if we'll ever see those days again. But it's important for us to start hedging our bets, I think. But with these tariffs, it really is kind of anybody's guess, because some of these other countries could bump up with retaliation tariffs, which some of them already have, and we could have this whole cat and mouse thing of my tariff's higher than your tariff, and whose tariff is bigger, and we'll have this tariff sizing contest. But who knows? And I'm sorry if this is boring. I think this is important information. Both of these stories, I think, that I shared with you in this episode, I think are important to understand, because they both impact everyone in the country, whether it be adversely or productively. They both impact us in some way, shape, or form. Man, I'm losing my voice. So again, with the stabbing thing that we talked about first, understand your rights in your state, understand the self-defense laws, stand your ground laws, that kind of stuff, because all of that will come to play if you have to use a life-saving tool. All of your understanding or lack of understanding of the law will happen, because the law is the law. And then knowing what to do after the fact, and knowing what tools to implement to not exceed and go into the deadly force, or the force disparity type of thing. And also understanding the possibility of response time for first responders is probably a lot longer than you expect, especially if you live in a real population dense area or in an extremely rural area. You know, two things can be the same at once. So understand that there's a lot that happens in a self-defense situation. Also, the market, when it comes to, you know, in this case, what we talked about, tariffs, there's a lot to take in effect here. Some of it falls under the preparing stages, whether you want to be a prepper or not. And I hate that term, because it's, well, I don't hate the term, but I hate that it's become so negative. Years ago, you know, during the Great Depression, our great grandparents learned how to can food and learn to preserve and learn to use as little as possible to get by, because that's just the way the world was. Now we live in such a throwaway society that when something like these tariffs take place and we see such an economic push, because we live in a just on time society or right now society, we don't have the goods stored to help weather the storm. So I think both these things affect us, because we live in a world where everything is crazy and so volatile and fragile. Honestly, it really is fragile and could change in a heartbeat. The stock market completely take a dump, and if you don't have food set aside, if you don't have supplies, whether it be ammunition or medication or whatever it may be, set aside, you could be a victim of something way worse. So again, these two stories do impact us in many, many different ways. And I hope you look at these stories a little bit more objectively and try and gather as much information as possible from them, and develop a routine or a system to help you become a better concealed carrier, a better protector to your family, and a better neighbor, honestly, and really a better citizen, and not jump on these crazy bandwagons that try and distract us from the reality of things. Life is crazy, life is fragile, and life is short. So we need to make the most of it while we are here. And we need to make sure that we're helping others along the journey make the most of it as well, and not be negative and hateful and disrespectful. Anyway, that's about all I got for you guys tonight. I really appreciate your time hanging out with me. Hopefully you made it through the whole show. I know this is not the most glamorous show I've ever made, but I hope you got something out of it. It really is important for me that I get what I believe out to you. That's why I do this, because I like having a voice, and I want you guys to know that maybe if you feel the same way I do, that you're not alone, that there are other people out there that feel the same way as you, and that you do have a voice in the 2A world and in the world in general. If you liked this show, please like, comment, share, and comment if I made a mistake, if I'm wrong on something, tell me where I'm wrong or how we can make things better in the comment section. That's how we can continue the dialogue, and that's how we get better having those conversations. If you want to follow me on social media, at Range Minded on X or Range Minded Podcast, whether it be on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I did that twice already. Instagram or TikTok is Range Minded Podcast. You can find me there. Also, you can jump on the website, rangemindedpodcast.com. I need to put targets on there. I was going to put those 3D targets that I made. I keep forgetting. But there's patches available there. There's also a comment section there. If you want to, donate to the show for any reason, buying a patch definitely helps. There's also, if you look at the link tree, there's a way to donate there too, which would be great if you would. I've noticed tonight that my equipment is getting old and I need to update it. So if you really feel like helping out the show, that would be awesome. Then I can start working on updating the equipment, which would be super cool. I'm not begging for money, but why not? You guys are awesome. I do appreciate your time and who you are. You have a purpose, you have a reason on this earth. So please find that reason and then be the best person you can be, because we're all here together. Anyway, that's it. Peace out. Don't forget, you got to take somebody shooting. And as always, you need to stay range-minded. Peace out. I think I said it before. I actually recorded this episode on April 8th. And today is the 9th. I wanted to show you something, add a little bit to this episode. I already know it's kind of long. I get it. But I think you guys need to see this really quick. Let me do this. So I ran a poll on my X account, Range Minded Podcast, by the way, at Range Minded on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, regarding the Carmelo Anthony thing. So I want you to see the results of this poll. Yeah, I only ran it for 24 hours. I didn't think about running it for longer, but I think it doesn't matter what I do. You're still going to see the same results. Check this out. So, as you're looking there, I said, with regards to Carmelo Anthony and the Austin Metcalf incident, Carmelo blank. So the first one was acted in self-defense, committed murder, or unsure, need more information. By far the majority, I only had 40 votes on this, but the vast majority ended up being committed murder. And this is what I'm talking about in this situation. You look at all the information that's coming in from a plethora of X accounts and news feeds and whatever, just like we talked about in this episode. There's a lot of passion, there's a lot of heat coming from both sides. But even in this anonymous poll, because I don't know who voted how, and I know I had some friends, some ex-friends vote on it. We had some questions on it, and some conversations on the back channels. Still over half, 60%. I had a pretty good majority that were polled. So I'm guessing, what's that? Probably 35 votes or something, 30-something votes. Still voted for, said that Carmelo committed murder. Again, I want you to look at the police reports, even though we talked about them in this episode. I want you to look at the police reports, make your own decision, and be open-minded. Don't just listen to the masses on either side of the aisle. And really, it's not up to us to make the judgment. Again, that comes down to the courts, just like we talked about in this episode. It just is what it is. So, yeah, there it is. There's the poll. Pretty interesting. So keep your head on the swivel. Don't fall victim to anybody's opinions or stuff you're hearing online or on the news. Develop an opinion. Wait for the facts. Use the facts that we do have to understand the scenario and the situation when it comes to this. And I guess the other update for this episode was Trump dropping some tariffs for other countries, but bumping it up for China, which exploded the market here in the US. Like, it just skyrocketed. I wish I would have bought some stocks yesterday, but such is that. Okay, anyways, guys, that's the update. Peace out.